On the 8th of May 2023, the 32nd Cambodia Southeast Asian Games commenced. No, not the traditional sports kind, the esports kind. Yes, the biennial event featuring the Southeast Asian countries had an officially endorsed esports sector. Though this was the third time that there was esports presence in the SEA Games, this year was the first time Valorant was featured as one of the games. The team representing Singapore was a mix of Tier 2 Singaporean players from different teams, featuring Orton, Divine, Frey, Neff, Vera, and Styrone. The format of the tournament was round robin, best of 1. 6 countries were present: Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. After the round robin, only the top 4 teams would be eligible for the playoffs. And with that, they were off. Singapore lost the opening match of the tournament to Vietnam, but won their next match against Indonesia in a 1917 overtime and won against Cambodia, concluding day 1. Day 2 saw Singapore going 1-1, winning against Malaysia,
though they didn't take it lightly,
but losing to Philippines. This placed Singapore at 3rd place, securing their spots in the playoffs. The playoffs were a best of 3, single elimination. Singapore was up against Vietnam in the revenge match. Thankfully, Singapore was able to exact revenge and 2-0 Vietnam, moving on to the grand finals. Their opponent would be Indonesia, who had also won their match against Philippines, 2-0. Okay, here is where the drama starts. Singapore took the first map 13-8. Next map would be split. In the 9th round, where Singapore was up 5-3, Frey, Singapore's Cypher player, used this particular camera setup. In the 14th round, Frey placed another Cypher camera here. This camera would be destroyed 3 seconds into the round. Nothing too special here, as Singapore would later win the round, going up 10-4. Now, this is where the problems really start to arise. According to a tweet longer by Styrone, the Singapore team was approached by TOs after their 10th point. The Indonesian team had complained that Singapore had used a bugged camera spot and demanded a replay of the 14th round. Singapore, though confused, as this was apparently a quote very commonly used camera and it's legal in certain VCTs, still agreed to replay the round. 30 minutes later, another complaint was lodged against Team Singapore, that being the camera placed in the 9th round. Yeah, remember when the scoreline was 5-3? Yeah. Team Indonesia again claimed that the camera Frey placed was a bugged camera spot and hence wanted to roll the points back to 5-3. However, Styrone claimed that the camera they used in the 9th round did not break any of the rules stated in the rulebook, which read that as long as the camera is viewable and able to be destroyed by both teams, it is legal. Moreover, the severity of the penalty depended on how much of an impact the bug had in the round. But not only did the camera almost immediately get broken, Indonesia subsequently won the round. Moreover, the reason why the Indonesians even were aware of the bug in the first place was due to, and get this, a private Discord conversation that the Indonesians had with the TOs that Singapore was not even aware happened. So in other words, the Singaporean team didn't even know that what they were doing was illegal, because the circuit that they played in, which was Malaysia Singapore Challenger, apparently the camera they used there was legal in that circuit, but apparently in Indonesia's case it wasn't legal, which is what caused all of this confusion basically. The TOs deliberated for nearly 6 hours before both teams were informed that they would be replaying from 9-4. Team Singapore agreed, and they waited on Indonesia to get back into the lobby to resume. At 1:51 AM, Indonesian fans allegedly streamed into the venue to protest the decision. Team Singapore was told to wait another 2 hours so that the TOs could make a quote final decision. At 4 AM, it was decided that the game would play from a scoreline of 5-5, with Indonesia getting 2 points for the bug that Singapore used. Team Singapore was to come back to the stage by 8 AM to replay the match, which they agreed to. After they finished setting up, the time was around 8:50 AM. Singapore was then informed that Indonesia had forfeited the game to quote uphold their national dignity. It turned out that Indonesia wanted to either disqualify Singapore entirely or forfeit the second map to Indonesia. Presumably, the TOs refused and Indonesia forfeited in protest, thereby Singapore winning gold by default. But it doesn't end here, as the TOs would make their final decision by awarding both Indonesia and Singapore both gold medals. So, what was the aftermath like? Well, according to the Singapore team, they were treated very nicely and warmly by the Indonesian fans on social media. But more importantly, this also sparked a discussion on the fact that different tournaments have different rule sets. Some sports and locations might be allowed in one circuit but banned in another, which is what caused this whole circus to begin with. Personally, this may be because most of the information I got has been in support of Singapore, and also if you can't tell from some of my tone in the earlier segments of the video that I am a bit biased. I think Singapore is not really in the wrong. They were not privy to the special DM rules that the Indonesians had, so they had no idea that the particular sport was legal or not. And there's also this whole debate if the cam that Singapore used even was a bug at all, since the camera placed in 5:3 is unable to see the full of A main. But regardless, it's not really the point, since Singapore was not part of the private DMs that Indonesians and TOs had. At the end of this whole saga, both teams had to wait for nearly 13 hours before Indonesia forfeited. Styrone also said that when they were told both teams were awarded the gold medal, Singapore had two choices if they disagreed with the rulings: either accept the joint gold or stay in Cambodia for another week to dispute the results. This was not ideal for Singapore, as their flight back home was scheduled after the award ceremony, so they just accepted the joint gold, leaving only one representative to accept the medal as the rest of the team boarded the plane. So as of writing this and recording this, which is the 14th of May, the Indonesians said that the bug Singapore used was equivalent to digital doping, to which the Singapore Esports Association essentially said what Styrone said, which was how they were just following the rules that were publicly available to them. I think the whole lesson to take away from this is that the TOs of this event was not the most efficient. I don't know why it took like 10-13 hours to solve this issue, and there was a lot of miscommunication. I can't verify the sources, but apparently it was the higher management that Indonesia forfeited. The players were apparently okay, but then again, it's just from this one tweet, so I can't verify the authenticity of it. But I think at the end of the day, this is all down to the TOs and Riot for not having a clear, defined global rulebook that everybody can adhere to, so that this type of miscommunication can never happen again. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm gonna leave links to the relevant sources I used, so if you want, you can do further reading. Thank you for watching.